The Abbotsford real estate market is shifting. Detached sales were up by 9%, while townhome sales were down by 46%, and condo sales were down by 24%. You might be wondering what all of these numbers mean for you. In today's video, I'm going to do a live market update for the Abbotsford Detached, Abbey Townhome, and Abbey Condo market. Stick around till the very end because I'm going to share a market forecast by Benjamin Tell, Chief Economist of CIBC, at the end of this video. Let's dive in. Let's start here with the Abbotsford Detached market. In November, the sales to active ratio for the Abbotsford Detached market was 14.8%. This indicates the Abbotsford Detached market is in balanced territory. This was up from the 12.2% that we saw in October. Next, let's check out months of inventory. Months of inventory sits at 7, so that means 1 out of 7 detached homes here in Abbotsford are selling. 6 out of 7 are not selling. And if we look at this in comparison to October, we'll notice months of inventory is actually down from what we see here in October. And the main reason for that is folks were approaching the holidays, so a lot of sellers, if their home hasn't sold, are taking it off the market. Next, let's look at the average sale price. The average sale price for Abbey Detached home right now is around $1,140,000. And this is up from the $1,107,000 we saw in October. So that's a good sign as a homeowner that we see prices are relatively going up month over month. Next, let's look at sales. There were 57 sales in November, and that's up from the 53 that we saw in October and up from the 47 we saw in September. So these 3 months shows that sales have been going up month over month. Active listings sits at 384. There was 125 new listings in October, and in November it was 103. Days on market is 27. What I can tell you from the front lines right now, folks, is I'm working with a lot of sellers that were considering making a move this year, but they have put their plans on hold until next spring. So next, let's look at the East Abbotsford Detached market. The East Abbotsford Detached market was in a seller's market with a sales to active ratio of 24.2%. And this is up from the 16.1% we saw in October. And what this tells us is, folks, is East Abbotsford remains a highly desirable area for folks already living in Abbotsford that are upgrading to a detached home, and for those folks that are looking to relocate from Langley, Surrey, or the Lower Mainland. Months of inventory right now for the East Abbey Detached market is around 5 months, so that again means 1 out of 5 homes are selling, 4 out of 5 are not selling. And that's down from the 6 months we had in October. Next, let's look at the average sale price. The average sale price for an East Abbey Detached home is around $1,180,000. That's up from the $1,078,000 that we saw in October. There were 32 sales in November, and that's up from the 25 that we saw in October. And if we look at the sales for September, it was around 21. So this shows for the last 3 months, home sales have been going up month over month. Days on market for East Abbey Detached market is 33, and that's up from the 17 that we saw in October. New listings. There were 38 new listings in November, and that's down from the 48 that we saw in October. Active listings right now sit at 132 active listings. Next, let's look at the Auguston numbers. In the month of November, the Auguston real estate market represented a balanced market for the Abbotsford Detached market with a sales to active ratio of 14.3%, and that was down from the 50% that we saw in October. Months of inventory right now sits at 3 months, so that means 1 out of 3 homes are selling, 2 out of 3 are not selling. There was only 1 sale in November, and that's down from the 4 that we had in October and down from the 3 we had in September. The average sale price in Auguston right now is $1,167,000. That's down from the $1,187,000 we saw in October. Days on market is 14, and that's down from the 41 we saw in October. Right now, the active number of listings is 7, and not much difference because in October there was really only 8. Next, let's move on to the West Abbotsford Detached market. The West Abbotsford Detached market represented a buyer's market with a sales to active ratio of 9.4%. Not much change there month over month, and months of inventory remains at 11 months. So in October it was around 11, and in September. So what we're seeing in West Abbotsford is months of inventory really isn't coming down, and the main reason for this might be see homes that are overpriced to begin with, and a good portion of homes that are tenanted that are being listed is in the West Abbotsford and Central Abbotsford area. The average sale price for a detached home in this area is $1,088,000. That's up from the $1,078,000 we saw in October and the $1,065,000 we saw in September. There were 12 sales in November, 12 sales in October, and 13 over September. So when we're examining the last 3 months for sales, there hasn't been much change here. Days on market is 21. Next, let's move on to the Central Abbotsford detached market. The Central Abbotsford detached market represented a high balanced market with a sales to active ratio of 15.5%. And in October, it was around the same. Months of inventory is 7, and it's down from the 8 months that we saw in October. The average sale price for a detached home in this area is $1,043,000. That's up from the $1,006 that we saw in October. There were 9 sales in November and 10 in October. Days on market is 36, and that's up from the 6 days that we saw in October. Right now, there is 58 active listings in that area, and that's down from the 65 that we saw in October. Next, let's move on to the Abbotsford townhome market. Right now, the Abbotsford townhome market is representing a balanced market with a sales to active ratio of 12.9%. In October, it was a high balanced market around 20.7%. Months of inventory right now for townhomes, it's 5. That means 1 out of 5 townhomes are selling and 4 out of 5 are not selling. In October, it was around 6, and in September, again, it was around 6. The average sale price for Abbey townhome is around $589,000, and it's down from the $644,000 that we saw in October. There were 22 sales in November, and that's down from the 42 that we saw in October, and in September, there was 33. Days on market are 25, and in October, days on market were 25 again. Next, let's look at active listings. Active listings for Abbey townhomes right now are sitting at 171 townhomes for sale. Right now, as a first-time home buyer that's looking to purchase a townhome or you're looking to upgrade to a townhome, one of the things that you're going to notice is there's a lot of inventory for the tangible market, but also you have an option to look at brand new townhomes. In East Abbotsford right now, there's a project going on called Cooper Meadows, and there's a portion of it is townhomes, row homes, and detached homes. High Street Village here in West Abbotsford, and there's still other pockets of Abbotsford where brand new townhomes are being built. But not only that, but there's a lot of row homes or duplexes that are coming on the market, and the average sale price for these duplexes is between $850,000 and $899,000. If you're a townhome buyer and one of my clients that I've worked with in the past, you'll always remember that I always recommend looking at the tangible market when buying a townhome, because you're going to find better deals and you can do your due diligence and research with reading the strata documents. Next, let's move on to the Abbey condo market. In November, the Abbey condo market was in balanced territory with a sales to active ratio of 12.5%. That's down from the 14.8% that we saw in October. Months of inventory right now sits at 6. That means 1 out of 6 townhomes are selling and 5 out of 6 are not selling. In October, months of inventory was around 7, and in September, months of inventory was around 7 again. Right now, the average sale price for an Abbey condo is $412,000, and that's down from the $417,000 that we saw in October. There were 35 sales in November. That's down from the 47 that we saw in October and from the 40 that we saw in September. Right now, new listings in October, there was 116 new listings, and in November, it went down to 62. Days on market is 32, and the active listing sits at 281. And the reason why active listings is high is right now, there's a lot of pre-sales and brand new development happening here in Abbotsford. You have condos, Central Abbotsford, West Abbotsford that are going up. So there's a lot of competition for sellers when they're looking to sell. So whether you're selling a 1-bed or 2-bed, 2-bath condo, one of the biggest things you need to keep in mind is listing your condo at market value. But another comparison is looking at the price of brand new construction, because that will be your competition. And condos are selling around 95% of their original list price. One opportunity that I'm seeing across all 3 markets right now, especially in the detached market, is buyers that are pre-approved can take advantage of the high inventory here in West Abbotsford, Central Abbotsford, and even East Abbey. The same thing goes for townhomes across the city, and the same thing for condos. Right now, I'm working with 2 buyers, first-time home buyers. One will be purchasing a condo, and another one will be buying a townhouse. But before we took them out to look at inventory, one of the first things that we made sure was we sat down with them where they understand the home buying process, so they have clarity of how the process works. And we got them pre-approved with my mortgage specialist, because once you're pre-approved, you're done 50% of the home buying journey. As a home seller, one of the conversations you're probably having with yourself is, should I list now or sell in spring? And what I'm telling a lot of my clients is, let's take your home off the market for now, because what's happening is we're entering the holiday season. We are only 22 days away from Christmas. Right now, there are a lot of buyers who are going to be traveling for Christmas, or they're going to be out of country. And as a homeowner, one of the last things you want is having your home listed during the holidays. A better time to explore is either listing in the new year or early spring. Remember, beginning of the video, I told you I would share the market forecast by Benjamin Tell for the Canadian real estate market. Here it is. I was at a real estate conference last week in Toronto that I go to on an annual basis. And one of the regular guest speakers that they have here, which is a fan favorite, is Benjamin Tell. He takes hard economic data and breaks it down in layman terms. And the one thing that he noted that was impacting the Canadian real estate market across Canada, in BC and Ontario, that is affecting buyer psyche is the orange man down south, Donald Trump. He went on further to note that tariffs are not going away completely, and moving forward, if Canada reaches some sort of trade agreement, tariffs will be here to stay. And even if there is a change in government in the US in a couple of years, no president will give up tariffs because they are bringing a lot of revenue for the country. The good news is time is running out for Trump. We're 1 year in and he has 3 more years, and there's a lot of chaos going on right now in Washington between the Republicans and the Democrats, and even his Supreme Court decision. We'll get an update on that sometime next year. And his prediction for Bank of Canada was that they were very conservative with their messaging at the last announcement that we had on October 29th, and he doesn't foresee them cutting rates any further. So interest rates remain in neutral territory right now at 2.25%, that are not having a positive or negative impact on buyer decision making. He did outline if things continue to regress with the Canadian economy, the Bank of Canada will have no other choice but to cut interest rates. Overall, he noted the fundamentals for the Canadian real estate market are strong when it comes to lenders lending money and also with the demand for real estate. He noted because developers are not building much, we're going to see a higher demand for homes, and home prices could increase in the next coming years. Another thing that he noted at the conference was the reason why homes are expensive across Canada isn't because developers are greedy, but a large portion, or at least 30% of the development, goes back to the city. In Toronto, for every condo that's built, 31% of the overall price that developers have to factor in is due to development charges that they pay in the city. What Benjamin Tell recommended, which I agree with, is if we want to make homes more affordable across Canada, we need to lower taxes. There needs to be a reform on the taxes that city is charging developers. So his market prediction for 2026 is the first half of the year will be a transition where we'll go week to week, and we should see market demand picking up by the second half of the year. But again, this is a prediction. A lot can change due to who's in power down south, which is Trump. Another thing that he noted, which a lot of it's being overlooked here, is we're in a recession here in BC. People are earning less money, and as a result, they're spending less money. And the main reason for this is because of the socialist, idiotic government that we have elected here, led by the socialist David Eby and his cronies. And David Eby talks the big talk that he wants to make housing more affordable. He wants to improve the overall cost for people across the province. But if you look at his last couple of years, they're spending money like crazy, and there's no private money coming in. In a healthy economy, you have a little bit of government spending, but also you are business friendly, where you have corporations, companies that want to come and invest money. And as a result, that yields employment opportunities for those people living in the province. And what a lot of people are waking up to now is that David Eby has a socialist government. They're not good for the province. This doesn't only impact businessmen or landlords, which they have portrayed as villains. It's impacting public servants as well. People working as cops, nurses, firefighters. And what they're noticing too is when their contracts are coming up renewal, one of the things that their union or the opposing party is suggesting is taking their benefits away. And this is what happens when you have the socialist government elected here. here, home affordability doesn't improve, rent prices don't improve, and what we have is the government spending more and more money and money fleeing the province and country. Enough about my rants here about David Eby. As you can tell, I'm not a fan of David Eby, but make no mistake, folks, I believe that as a Canadian and people that live in BC, we deserve a right to have access to great public healthcare, schools, and the list goes on. But government spending isn't the answer. What we need is a new government or a change in government here at the provincial level, which is business friendly, that understands that, hey, to improve the trajectory of the province, we need to spend less money and we need businesses and corporations coming in, which will create opportunities for people finding work and will help people with their day-to-day living cost. Let me know about your thoughts in the comments below about what you think is going to happen next year in the Abbey detached, townhome, or condo market. As a homeowner, do you still have questions about what's happening in the market, or you want to get clarity about where the market is headed in your neighborhood next year? You can book a call with my team and I by clicking the first link in the description below. If you found today's content valuable, please go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I'm Gary Dhindsa, and I'll see you next week.